Good morning and welcome to our third and final part of our walk along the Great Central Railway. We've been following the line from Aldham Junction up to West Silkstone Junction. We're now on the final leg. We're just at Straford Crossing, approaching Straford Colliery. Where these trees are, there were a number of sidings, obviously holding sidings for coal wagons for the pit. We've had a look around, there's no remains. This map shows a pit site, the sidings being on the extreme right. Just to our left here, the remains of the Straford main colliery. The pit site itself is now an industrial park. There are a few buildings remaining. Also still in use is one of the original shafts. It's used for pumping water out of the mine workings. It flows into these settling lagoons. Access to the pit was through this underpass. We'll go down and have a look. There's a few remains of the mine around here, much overgrown. Back upon the track bed, a signal box once stood here. So this bit of a clearing way now is the site of another substation. You just see the remains of the concrete floor here. This is the site of Wentworth Junction. Just to the left here, a line went up to serve Wentworth Silkstone Colliery, known locally as Levy Tag. I believe this closed about 1968, something like that. On the map, Wentworth Junction is arrowed in red. The green arrow shows the embankment that we're on. We can just see this stone pillar. A footbridge went across here at some point, long since removed obviously. Unfortunately, the site of the pit is on private land, so we're not allowed in. I think we'll save that one for another day. It's round about this location where the famous Garratt Worsbrough banker locomotive was kept during the week. There would have been coaling and watering facilities obviously, and judging by the amount of bricks on the floor, it's possible these are from the demolition of the supports for the water tank. Anyway, we'll head back to Wentworth Junction and continue up the incline. See you back there. Just to our left is a short branch we've just walked. The Garratt locomotive worked this line from 1925. It was basically one boiler supplying two sets of driving wheels and an articulated frame. It pushed the heavy coal trains up this 1 and 40 incline as far as the Silkstone Tunnels, then returning back here to await its next turn. Just on our right is the site of New Sovereign Colliery. This closed in about 1906, but was used up until the 1950s as a pumping shaft. We're actually stood on the shaft here. There's quite a bit remaining. We think this must have been an engine house. These look like wheel pits. This flow would have led to a chimney, somewhere centre screen. A loop left the main line to save the pit. The track bed can be clearly made out through the trees. This is where it rejoined. We're now approaching Moor End Junction. The original alignment went off to the left. We can just see a bit of a bank in there through the trees. In 1880, a connection was put in between here up to join the main line at Silkstone Common. This involved a 1 in 40 climb plus 2 tunnels before reaching West Silkstone Junction to join the main line between Barnsley and Penistone. On the map, the extension is the more northern line. The original Moor End line went to serve 2 collieries. It looks pretty impassable, so we'll join the moor end line a little bit further along. This is looking towards the original alignment. We'll cross this field and pick it up. This is the track bed. Just to the left are the remains of old Sovereign colliery. We think this was the engine house. And this circular depression is a shaft. So moving on down the track bed, we'll head towards Moor End, see what we can find up there. This section of line became out of use long before electrification, so we're not expecting to find anything at all, other than the embankment that we're walking on. See, a bridge has been taken out of the embankment sometime in the past. It may have been a farmer's access, or it may have been access to the pit, who knows. We'll nip across and pick the track bed up the other side. Just found the remains of a nice little culvert going under the track bed. Pretty dry. Right, so back up on the track bed now. Going towards the site of Moor End colliery. We came across a fence at this point, so the track bed was on private land. So we're now back on the Worsbrough Incline, climbing up towards Silkstone Common. Something here. Just a land drain passing under the track. I'm not sure if this camera can pick up the gradient. We've heard tales of when the Worsbrough banker was working hard, it bent the frames of the guard's van. The poor chap couldn't open his door, so had to leave it open. Must have been fun in winter. So we've come across this farmer's bridge. Just wait while Biggles has gone. Yeah, unlike the bridges we saw in part 2, this hasn't been replaced by concrete. It's simply had its steel sections, or cast iron should I say, lifted up to allow clearance for the overhead line equipment. It has some tie bars fitted, possibly during electrification. And we can just see the remains of an insulator which were in use for the telegraph wires. Just before we reached Silkstone Common, we did find this underpass. I'll have a quick look. This is a monument to the locomotive crews that worked this line, back in the days of steam of course. Another bit of artwork to remind people that this was a railway. These buildings just through the trees there are on the site of Moor End Colliery. Like I say, they're on private land, so we'll respect that. This bridge carried the line over Moor End Lane. Looks like it's carried some pipe work at one time, with brackets there for some pipe work. It's of welded construction, not riveted. Just seeing there. So from here, with a steady climb up to the Silkstone Tunnels. If we were to continue straight on here, we'd come to the Silkstone Tunnels. Unfortunately, they're sealed, so we need to do a bit of a detour. We'll have to follow this diversion because the tunnels are blocked off, unfortunately. So just down here, don't know if you can see, that is the cutting between the two tunnels. So if we have a look down here, we should be able to see the northern portal of number 1 tunnel. There we are. So we're now making our way back down to the track bed. The shallow cutting just to our right. So obviously there's not many people come down here. I can see why really. So we'll make our way through this lot towards West Silkstone Junction. There's still quite a few supports for the cable gantries. This bridge carries Blacker Green Lane across both tracks. We'll go up and have a look. So we're up on the bridge now. Where we're headed is just around that second bend at West Silkstone Junction. That's where the Worsbrough Incline joins the Huddersfield to Sheffield line. We're now at the site of West Silkstone Junction. Our line went off to the right. We found a surprising amount of relics left behind by the salvage team, just thrown to one side and forgotten about. This line closed in 1981, and as we know, the early 80s was a time of mass pit closures in this area in particular. Therefore, there would have been a huge amount of scrap steel from both the collieries and their railways, meaning the price of scrap would have been low. This may explain why so much stuff was left behind. We found a few track drains intact, and a water tank. Right, so that concludes part 3 of this explore. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching, sticking with us. It's been interesting for me, to be fair. I've lived all my life within 5 miles of this route, and we found stuff that I didn't know about. So once again, please like and subscribe, and we'll be back shortly.